Hey YouTube, we're back again for the third video. Um, I really hope that all of this has been helping. We're going to continue on with lesson number 3, and we're going to talk about seventh chords. And then we're going to hopefully, if I can get through with that, time just seems to escape me, and I don't like for these videos to be like uber long, but sometimes you just can't help it. I feel like the information is needful, and so I'd rather give too much than too little. With seventh chords, we discussed in the last video building a chord on triads and getting that tertian harmony, and we just discussed triads. Basic simple chords, but like I said in the last video, not all chords just have 3 notes. Some have 4, and some have way more than that. You have lots of notes. We're going to discuss seventh chords in detail, and then we're going to go into altered chords. When you're talking about seventh chords, what you're basically talking about is continuing the pattern of tertian harmony up one more. So rather than just having, scale degrees 1, 3, and 5, we're going to add 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay? So we've got C, E, G, and D. We're going to start in the key of C. I may go to a different key depending on if we have time or not. Now, if we did what we did last time with seventh chords and walk them up accordingly with the scale degrees, we hear different sounds. They have different what are called qualities. And when I say quality, basically it's kind of the equivalent of when I was talking about a major chord and a minor chord and a diminished and an augmented. Those are the chords of different quality. It has a major quality, a minor quality, a diminished quality, augmented. You may hear those terms, and those are more academic terms and not really used among just common street music vocabulary. But I feel the more you know, it helps. So dealing with this chord, there are 4 different five, I guess, if you want to be technical, I guess, types of seventh chords. You have a major seventh chord, major minor, minor major, minor minor, and then you have, I guess I'll have to include these 2, diminished and fully diminished, that is, and then half diminished. You're probably like, oh my goodness, how am I going to remember all this? Well, what will help is now that we're at talking about seventh chords and going to extend it on out with more extended tertian chords here later, it's important that you keep in mind, like I said in the last video, the scale degrees of the key and the scale degrees of the chord. They night and day. So hopefully I can explain it and I will say the right thing, and so that way there's no negative feedback and I'm not confusing. When we're in the key of C dealing with a seventh chord on the 1, I said there's a major seventh chord, and that was the first one. I'm going to use C, the note C, not the key. I'm going to use the note of C to show all 6 of those seventh chords. And then I'm going to go through in the key of C, and we're going to walk up and we're going to identify which one is which. Okay. That's going to take some time. I may not be able to go through a different key. But again, everything is all relative. So if you know, and if you've been paying attention to the other videos on knowing your scales and knowing what notes are in those scales, then you can still build chords accordingly. So, starting with C, we're going to make a major seventh chord. Nobody calls this chord a major 7, but I'm being explicitly technical, and that is the technical name for it. Commonly, you will see it on chord charts as simply major 7, C major 7, B flat major 7, A flat major 7. They don't put major. That's a little redundant, and they figure that most people will automatically know. So from here on out, I'm going to just call it a major 7 chord. But I just wanted, for you all to know when I say a major major, why it's called that. Because it's a major chord with the interval of that major 7th. Remember, we talking about intervals, and I said that if an interval is in the key of whatever note you started with, then it's a major interval. C and B. B is in the key of C, and it's the 7th. It's a 7th from C. It's a 7th from C. It's a major 7th from C. So the reason this chord is called a major 7 or a major major 7 is because it's a major chord with a major 7th. Okay, so again, and you can see, oh, I'm sorry, you can. Oh, yeah, you can. On the chords, it says chords and it says C major 7. It wouldn't be a major major 7. That'd be a little bit redundant. But you can see that it says C major 7. We have a major minor 7. Major chord. Again, if C to B was a major 7th, C to B flat is a minor 7th. So this is a major chord with a minor 7th. And as you can see, it just says C7. I hope you can see that. I may have edited and cropped my screen, so you may not be. But if you're not, take my word for it, it's saying C7. Nobody calls this a major minor 7. That's the technical name for it. It's actually just, you'll see it just as 7. You'll see C7. Sometimes people will refer to it as a dominant 7. Oh, that's a C dominant 7, G dominant 7, E flat dominant 7. Most commonly, you'll see it simply as 7. D7, A7, F7, simply a 7, just C7. A major chord with a minor 7th. Okay. Then we have minor major chords. Now, I'm just saying this just so I know that I've said it. I don't want to go into whole detail because when you're in minor keys, the theory changes drastically. When you're in a major scale and a major key, the theory is a lot more simple. The chord structures are a lot more simple. But if you remember back to the first video, I said you had 3 minor scales. Well, because you have 3 minor scales, because of different notes that are changed, then that changes your chord possibilities. So since your chord possibilities are changed, then that changes what you're able to call certain notes. So again, I'm not going to go there. I may make a video on just, on minor scales and minor harmonies and why, it may help bring you back to this one and you'd be like, oh, okay, that, makes sense. But I don't want to turn this whole thing into a theory session, although I feel it's necessary. But I don't know, I may wait till after the song tutorials or whatever. So you have a minor major 7, which is a minor chord, and the interval of a major 7. If you're gathering from this, the first quality that's labeled is with the chord, the first 3 notes, whether it's major or minor. And then the last major or minor has to do with that interval, that's the interval of the 7th, whether the 7th is major or minor. Okay, so we had a major major 7 or a major 7, and it was major because we had this major chord with a major 7. And then we had a major chord with a minor 7, major minor 7. Here we have minor major 7. And then you're like, well, I'm sure there's a minor minor. And yes, there is. Minor minor. Simply put, minor 7. You'll always pretty much see it just as a minor 7. Nobody says minor minor because it kind of is just, first of all, it sounds funny, but it's just understood by most musicians. It's a C minor 7. The only one where you actually call it both is minor major. That's the only one, minor chord, C minor major 7. That's the only one where it's actually common to call it with both qualities. Everything else has a different name. Then we talked about diminished and how they were built on all minor thirds. Minor third, minor third. And we have two different types of diminished. Now this is just the C diminished triad. We can have the minor seventh. In common chords, you'll see this as a minor 7 with a flat 5. In other words, a minor 7 and the fifth has been flatted. Technically, it's called a half diminished, though. And it's called a half diminished because this 7th isn't diminished. It's a minor 7th. And then we have a fully diminished where everything is built on minor thirds. And the thing about fully diminished chords is, since they're all built on minor thirds, you can't tell unless you know the key or you're reading the music what key you're in, because an A diminished 7 looks the same as a C diminished 7 in a different inversion, and that's why. But that's pretty much it. So if you understand, again, if you understand the notes that make up whether it's major or minor, and then that interval, that will help you. So let's take a different key. Let's take G. And let's make a dominant 7 or a G7. We saw that requires a major chord with a minor 7th. So we got our G major, we need a minor 7th. Well, in the key of G, the 7th is an F sharp, but we don't need that F sharp. That makes it a major 7 or a major major. We need it minor. There's our G7. Okay, and sometimes in chording, notice I have a G, B, D, F. Not everybody plays it that way. You can. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take the G and put it down here as an octave, and I may take the rest, that B, D, F, and play it, like this in an inversion, just to change the voicing. Or I'll put the G and the F down here and put, that in there. Just to make it, again, the more you know, then the more you're able to kind of branch off. So there you have it. You have major 7 or major major, dominant 7 or simply just a 7, major minor. We got the half diminished, the minor major 7, the fully diminished, and the minor 7. I kind of went a little out of order. But yeah, you can build that with any note. If you know the notes in that key, of your starting note, if you know what's common to the key that you're starting on, what's in that key, again, the word was diatonic to that key, you'll be fine. I said I was going to go back and we were going to see in the key of C what all the 7th chords would be if we walked it up in 7th chords. Well, we know by now that this is a C major 7, okay? So let's move on to this one then. So if we're on D, which is scale degree 2 in the key of C, and we build a 7th chord off of that, then what is it? Well, we've got D, F, A. We know that's a minor, so it's going to be a minor something. Well, is C, and this is where we get tricky when we talk about scale degrees of the keys. C is not a scale degree in the key of D. If we know that, again, you say, well, I thought we were in the key of C. We are. We're in the key of C. We're trying to just figure out when we see this what it is. Well, we know that we've got to discuss the root of this chord. The root of this chord is D. So then in order for us to figure out how this C fits in, we've got to, for a second, think in the key of D. And in the key of D, there is no C natural in the key of D. There's a C sharp, and that would be a major 7th. So this C has been lowered, this C sharp has been lowered to a C, and that's a minor 7th. So we've got a D minor chord with a minor 7th, that would be a D minor 7. Walking up to E, the 3rd scale degree, again, still in the key of C. We've got E, G, and B, a minor chord, but we have D up here. Well, for briefly a second, if we think in the key of E, we know that a 7th diatonic in E would be a D sharp. I know it's saying E flat, but you know, bear with me because it's the program I'm using. It doesn't account for keys. This would be a D sharp. So this D sharp has been lowered to D natural, making it a minor seventh. So we have a minor chord with a minor seven. So it's E minor seven. So thus far in the key of C, the one, if we build everything up, you know, in seventh chords, the one chord is a major seventh. The chord built on the second scale degree in the key of C is a D minor seven. And we have an E minor seven, third scale degree. And then we have F, we have major here, and E is in the key of F. And that would be a major seven. So we've got a major chord with a major seven. We've already established that's called a major major, or simply just major seven. We've got G, B, D, and F here. We've got a major chord, but we got this minor seventh because F isn't in the key of G. And again, you say, well, why are you thinking in the key of G? Because I have to understand the quality of the chord. And then once I understand the quality of the chord, then I can put it in context of the key that I'm in. Okay, I really hope that that's making sense and you're not getting confused. That's why I take a second, and the more adept you get into that, you won't have to think about, okay, what key am I in? Okay, what's the note? Okay, now what's the seventh of that key? Okay, now let me backtrack and then put it in that. You won't have to do all, you'll just be able to go from one step right to the next in a matter of, you know, a split second. So we have G, B, D, and F. A major chord with a minor seventh, just that, simply a G7. A, C, E, and G. Minor chord with a minor seventh because G is not in the key of A. Again, we've got to think, you know, you got to think micro and macro, or small picture and then big picture. The quality of the chord, and then put in the key. And then we have B, D, F, A. We said that this was diminished, built on all minor thirds. And then we've got this, this minor seventh. So that's either minor 7 flat 5 or a half diminished, B half diminished. And then we come back to the C major 7. And if we were to take this in F, we'd have F major 7, G minor 7, A minor 7, B flat major 7, C7, D minor 7, E half diminished or minor 7 flat 5, and then back. Same thing. So they're going to repeat. So that's basically all you need to know on that with seventh chords. I think I may go ahead and end this video, and I'll take another video and discuss extended tertian.